Liquid's turn to ban.
And we're back for Game 2 of our final series of the day. TongFu and Team Liquid showing off in another East versus West showdown, and Team Liquid, just like Dignitas, stunning the world, upsetting a favored Chinese team, and doing so with style. Hell, they didn't do it with style. They did it with a bear. They did it with a bear and a snake man, and it was awesome. And if you missed it, you need to go watch the VOD. TongFu, though, going to be looking to somehow split this series. Liquid, though, much like Dignitas, a team that does function a lot on momentum. Whenever they get on a roll, they tend to stay on a roll. TongFu, really a team that is characterized by their patience. We've seen it all day long. Their ability to continue making good decisions despite being in bad situations. Unfortunately for them, that wasn't enough to bail them out of trouble coming down the stretch in our final game. But still a team, even in the face of a Team Liquid that's riding high after that Game 1 win, going to have everything they need to just grind out a win and at least split the series. So Liquid and TongFu up next. And again, I will recap. Well, not recap, look ahead to our schedule tomorrow following the conclusion of the stream. So make sure you stick around at least for a little while. And it's going to be me and Draskell back on the mic tomorrow, same as today. Draskell, my friend, yeah, I mean, Team Liquid, a team we both know quite well. And it's been, I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've seen them play that well. Like, just to be totally honest, that was one of the best games I've seen them play in months.
Yeah, I mean, what was really fortunate about that game was the level 1. Because the level 1, they lose Korok, but they kill 3. So that already puts your lanes at a pretty good advantage. They kind of threw How to the Wolves that game, especially because he was up against what started off as a tri-lane against an Ursa, especially who you can't even beat anyway as Lifestealer. And then the lanes in general just didn't work out for TongFu at all. Viper versus DK. Viper obviously excels very, very well in that situation. And they didn't really have the supports to help the lanes that much. Honestly, I feel, as crazy as it sounds, that Liquid actually outdrafted them pretty hard. And even if they didn't get those kills in the early stage, granted it helped a lot, they probably still would have been able to come out ahead. Now, how far ahead? I'm not sure if TongFu would have been quite as squeamish to take fights as they were, given the early game. But they showed that they still have excellent map movement, even when they're under a tremendous amount of pressure. If you want to remember the 3 tier 2s that they got in the course of like 5 minutes, because Liquid just refused to do anything aggressive. So if they give TongFu that kind of room, again, and they don't severely outdraft and outplay them, it could be a totally different story here for Game 2.
Absolutely. They do manage to go ahead and grab that Bad Rider for Bulba, and had a lot of success there. The Weaver, the Alchemist pick leading things off for TongFu, as you had alluded to. It's an interesting combination. It's 2 heroes that can fight very effectively early, so long as they do have an adequate supporting cast. And it all comes down to just how they want to take those fights. Both of the heroes can work well in isolated gank situations or work well in big 5-on-5 team fight situations, just depending on what timing window they want to hit with their own aggression. And Team Liquid still waiting to show us their last pick. And I would love to know how many times OD's been banned today. I'm pretty sure all but one, because that was the one time we saw him. I just looking, we don't even talk about the bans that much anymore because they are becoming, what it's turning into is 2 or 3 heroes that are just standard bans, and then plus one usual, respect ban or something like that. And Liquid taking the chin away from TongFu, just not wanting to face up against that hero. They will go ahead and land themselves a Visage, though.
Team Liquid's turn to ban.
Well, I do like the Visage pick. It's a hero that Liquid actually brought back into competitive play themselves months and months ago. They actually ran an OD Visage lane before anybody used either of those heroes, and they crushed with it. Like, it was really a sight to see just because of the pure burst damage that you could do with it. But, of course, they're not going to have access to the OD this game, as spanned out by TongFu and Liquid. Getting a Bat and a Visage together, always a dangerous combination. A Lasso and a Visage alone is usually enough to just kill a hero flat out. And because of the fact that they do have a Blink Initiator already, heroes like Weaver are already going to be feeling a little bit more unsafe. If they want to put Bulba back on the Bat Rider, they can definitely do that. Maybe look to pick up something like a Puck, because right now, TongFu, the 2 heroes that they do have, the one thing that you can be certain of is you want to be able to initiate against them, and the more initiation you have, the better.
10 seconds remaining.
Still waiting on the second ban phase to work its way out. But yeah, I mean, when I look at Liquid's lineup, Team Liquid, as you had mentioned, really can claim credit for being one of the heroes that really brought Visage into the forefront, especially in the West. It's a hero with which they're very well acquainted. But Visage still one of those heroes, especially when you're talking about the ability of heroes like Alchemist, and in conjunction with the Weaver in particular. He is squishy, but he usually gets away with it because, well, he does have Gravekeeper's Cloak, but nonetheless, he's a hero that if you're going to use him, you need to make sure you get a lot of mileage out of him early. He's good in the mid game, but he does begin to fall off a little bit, and the tree's actually going to be the one picked up by TongFu this time around. So Liquid going to be looking to answer out with that. Tree plus Weaver, hey, nerfs mean nothing. Tree Weaver's still pretty damn good.
Especially against those teams that don't have any residual damage. Anybody who's looking at just burst, it's going to be really good. But the problem is they already have a Batrider, so there goes that idea. That one's kind of out the window. And it's only 4 charges at level 1 now, which is a pretty big difference. It's almost half as effective as it used to be. Of course, once it's maxed out, it's still the same thing that it always was. But the strength of Weaver Treant is against those teams that pick solo offlaners or something like that don't have anything to eat through that ability, and you abuse it really hard and you go for aggressive dives and try to kill supports. Well, Liquid have already seen the cards that TongFu are going to be playing here, and they're going to go ahead and pick up a Bane to answer that. So even more lockdown for the Alchemist and the Weaver. Definitely like that. And there's only 1 ban left. Of course, Liquid still potentially need their mid, and they need to hear that Korok's going to be playing. So I wouldn't be surprised to see TongFu maybe pick a mid of their own if they do want to run that Weaver in the off lane and run the Alchemist safe lane. Or alternatively, if they're just going to go ahead and put the Alchemist mid and run a tri-lane with the Weaver and the tree, then we could still potentially see some supports.
I'll tell you something I think could fit into both lineups, but more well into Liquids just based on the performance I've seen them have with the hero and what they really need to be adding to their composition would be that Kunkka. Whenever you see a Weaver and Alchemist, Tree, and you don't pick Tree Weaver to sit back and not fight. You know you're going to be fighting. Having X marks the spot to try and deal with the Weaver, being able to time that up with the Torrent's going to give you just enough of an opening to try and lock that hero down. As we've seen before, his ability to not only contribute to team fights with the boat and the damage it does, but more notably the fact that when it passes through your team, the damage delay that comes with it, so on and so forth. I just feel like that would be a really nice balance because, as you had said, their damage is very magical right now. They don't have, and obviously they're going to be looking for a carry as well. But when you see that Alchemist come out the way he did, one can only assume that's a mid-Alchemist. Mid-Alchemist versus a mid-Kunkka, that's a win for Kunkka, or at least it should be, if nothing else, a break-even. And that's something they might want to consider here because whenever you're up against this kind of a composition, this very much strikes me as a game where the Alchemist is going to look to get up an early Shadow Blade and be active instead of passive in terms of what he contributes to the team. I think Liquid could really benefit from just having that kind of a hero who's going to be happy to get out and fight very, very quickly.
The more aggression you can put out, the better. And wow, TongFu goes with a Bounty Hunter, which against the lineup of Liquid so far, it's not the most dangerous pick in the world. Usually Bounty Hunter is one of those heroes who doesn't excel so much at the 5v5 because of just the random residual AoE damage that you take or things like Tidehunter Ravages and stuff like that you really can't afford to be near. But because of the fact that there's Treant armor, and because of the fact that the only way to really chew through it right now is Batrider, outside of, I guess, Familiars attacking you, I think it's actually really solid. It allows TongFu to play more aggressive, allows them to go for kills, and good luck outrunning a Weaver with track speed and tree armor. It's pretty much impossible. You're just going to get chased to the ends of the earth and eventually probably go down. So TongFu changing up their style a bit here. Typically, they go for a team that can fight, but this is probably more aggressive than I think I've ever seen them picking today. Yeah,
no, I completely agree with you. And I like the way you put that. A team that can fight but likes to do other things is how I would characterize what they tend to draft. They like to pick teams that, if we have to 5-on-5, we'll be able to do it and rely on our own just natural mechanics whenever it comes to coordination and so on and so forth. But then they'll also have an element of push to it or an element of gank to it or what have you. This is just flat out fight. It's not even, I can't even call it gank. It's just going to be Bounty Hunter and Weaver all over the map. Tree is going to be helping, and again, the Alchemist most likely in my mind is going to be looking to go with an early kind of an item so they can get the most mileage out of that Bounty Hunter and out of Treant Protector's living armor until it falls off. Still waiting to see what Liquid's going to show us. Something that Liquid has shown to really do well with against these kind of lineups, though, is just to pick an anti-mage. Just pick a hero like that, and then just dare the other team to execute against you. Now, that's, of course, quite a tall order. Nope, they're going to go ahead and grab that Gyro. I actually mentioned that during the draft of Game 1, that Gyro, in a lot of ways, has fallen off in big time over his popularity from 3 or 4 months ago, but still a hero beloved by TC that's going to give them some nice magic damage, the ability to take fights with the AoE call down, and of course that late game safety belt that is Gyrocopter and Flak Cannon. So and that kind of accomplishes the same thing I was talking about whenever I was talking about perhaps drafting a Kunkka. Just getting a hero who can and wants to fight early on and has no problem playing defensive if you have to.
Yeah, I really like that. And just solidifying the late game is what Team Liquid needed to
10
do. And
seconds
now they've pretty
remaining.
much done that because Gyrocopter during the late game with the right amount of farm. There's not a whole lot of heroes who carry quite as hard as he
TongFu's
does just
turn
because of
to
how
pick.
good Flat Cannon is. And they also have just, between the Bane, the Visage, Gyro, that tri-lane burst is nuts. I mean, we saw earlier the Timbersaw played by Dignitas and the Visage combo from them and how much damage it did. This is pretty much the same thing, except Gyro kind of has to be closer, whereas Timbersaw's mobility is a bit higher. So now the ball's in TongFu's court. If it's actually going to be an Alchemist mid, then they're looking at another support here. If not,
10
I'm
seconds
honestly
remaining.
TongFu could pick a lot of stuff here, just because their heroes are so ambiguous that they
5
can
seconds
pretty much
remaining.
kind of do whatever at the drop of a dime. Whereas Liquid, their lanes are kind of a little bit more established.
10
TongFu are
seconds
trying to think about
remaining.
what they want to pick right now because no matter what, Liquid are going to have the last pick,
5
and they might be able to
seconds
get the better of
remaining.
this. But they pick another hero that can kind of do
Team
whatever.
Liquid's
Nature's
turn
Prophet.
to pick.
So they get another jack of all trades. The split push coming out from TongFu is actually really scary. And Team Liquid really only have one hero who can punish it so far, and that's the Bat Rider. So if you're Liquid, I would still like to see more initiation. I still think Puck is a great choice here if you can possibly go for it, just to absolutely force the fight.
Right.
That's the one thing that Liquid don't have yet. Bat Rider can pull a hero out of position and kill it, but it can't force a full engagement.
10
Puck is pretty
seconds-
much one of the
10
only heroes in the
seconds
game who can get away
remaining.
with that.
I mean, when I look at TongFu's
5
lineup, I think you're
seconds
dead on the
remaining.
money, by the way. TongFu's lineup, it's one of those lineups that you just have to call thin. That's what it is. They are going to go ahead and get the Queen of Pain, so they're actually prioritizing damage out of that mid position instead of lockdown, instead of, as you said, the true initiation, the ability to force fights at the drop of a hat. But, you know, TongFu's lineup is a lineup that cannot afford to get behind at all. That Bounty Hunter is going to have to be an influence early on. He's going to have to make sure he's with Weaver, with Alchemist, even with the Prophet, who's going to be a +1 all over the map. They need the track kills. They need to make sure Weaver doesn't fall behind. Alchemist, we saw just how bad it is when an Alchemist does fall behind because all of a sudden, even with his ultimate, he's not tanky enough to survive gank attempts. He becomes a big fat sitting target. And then you've got a team of they don't have any, I mean, their lockdown is really just negligible. They're going to have Unstable Concoction, which is excellent. And then they're going to have Overgrowth from Tree and Protector. Other than that, and I guess Sprout, if you want to even call it that.
10 seconds
Other than that, they don't have a lot of abilities that will allow them to fight reliably. Whereas when you
5
look at Team
seconds
Liquid,
remaining.
they've got just AoE all over the place now. They have a nice balance of magic damage with the physical damage after having added that Gyrocopter to their lineup. And yeah, this is definitely going to be a game that TongFu needs to take control early, and they simply cannot let go. They
Prepare for
basically need to
battle.
replicate Team Liquid's success in Game 1, because that was very much the state of things in Game 1 for Team Liquid. They had to take control early, and if they had slipped at all, TongFu would have capitalized. Now the shoe's on the other foot.
Well, the big problem right now for TongFu is the way that they've picked it. They're going to send an Alchemist mid against the Queen of Pain, and that's the reason why Liquid decided to pick the Queen of Pain. We talked a little bit earlier about how Puck does well against Alchemist, but he doesn't crush it.
Right.
Queen of Pain will crush it because of Shadow Strike, and of course you go the 2-1-1 build, and you just make any melee hero just sad that they exist, basically, in your lane. So mobility is the key here for the mid player, and of course, just having the AoE damage output. Not to mention, speaking of damage output, TongFu don't have, like, any. Like, they don't have any damage. They have a Weaver who needs
30
farm.
seconds
They have a
to
Bounty
battle.
Hunter who is going to be able to, I guess, get Shuriken Toss, and then they have a Tree and a Prophet.
Yep.
Those two heroes are relatively greedy by nature, and an Alchemist mid who's going to be getting nada.
Yep.
So, aggressive tri-lane coming out from Liquid. I love this choice. They knew that there was going to be a Bounty Hunter in the bottom lane, and against the Bat Rider, I think Bulba is going to be more than fine in this one-on-one. Again, I do like Liquid's draft here, but there is definitely a chance for TongFu to make something happen once that Bounty Hunter gets 6.
The battle
Horn blows, and the
begins.
final game of the day is now underway. I want to thank all of you guys, by the way, especially those who I know have been with us all day long. Thank you for sharing today with us. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Still a few fireworks left. The finale, Liquid versus TongFu, our final match. But once again, thank you for being a part of the broadcast. Can't wait to get back underway tomorrow. Let's take a look at our lineup, see who's going to be handling who. TC as anticipated on the Gyrocopter. Korok setting up shop here amid on the Queen of Pain. Gonna have Fluff and Stuff on the Visage, with the Bad Rider played for the second game in a row by Bulba. Bane gonna be played by IX Mike. On the other side of the river, TongFu gonna have Hao farming up the Weaver. We're gonna have the Bounty Hunter played by King Jay in that off lane. We're going to have San Sheng handling the big walking tree dude. We're going to have the other tree dude. His name is Banana, handling the Nature's Prophet, and the Alchemist, going to be played by Moo here in mid. And as stated, he's a very sad panda right now.
Yeah, I mean, no Stout Shield. He is getting armor, though, so it's not quite as bad. And usually alchemists who go mid are going to max spray first, so it's not like Korok is going to just make him want to leave the game, but it is going to be pretty difficult for Mu to get a whole lot, at least in the early game stages. And Bounty Hunter actually managed to get 5 CS already because he did some creep pulling in his zone, and both heroes have kind of just split off and are farming into their towers. So honestly, that benefits TongFu. As long as the heroes aren't going directly versus each other, then the Bounty Hunter is going to be a-okay with that. He just needs the experience to be able to get to 6 and then start roaming around with track, and then hopefully by that point Mu has some items himself, and How could be in some trouble.
There it is. No creeps to eat that rocket barrage. Soul Assumption +1. All they need. They dropped the sentry. And I didn't even notice if they did this. If they did, it was so smart. What I think, they dropped that sentry prior and then did not kill the ward that was sitting there just so that they wouldn't give away the fact that there was a sentry down. And then Weaver took the bait and came over and got hit with a nightmare. I think that's what happened. To be honest, I wasn't paying as much attention to the ward placement, but if that is what happened, that's some sick, sick game sense in a really nice way to make a Weaver feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah, seriously, next level. And this is kind of what I was expecting out of the lanes, honestly, just because, again, Liquid are so good at picking lanes that just win. Like, these lanes are meant for one purpose, and that's to win the early game. TongFu are going to be hard-pressed to really do anything, I would say, for the foreseeable future here. We're talking like 10, 15 minutes in is probably when they're going to make their first moves. Even Banana has been forced off into basically an offensive jungle position just because he's so scared, and Hao has abandoned the top lane. He's just not even there anymore. He's like, yep, this is way too hard. I'm just going to go over here and Shikuchi some Alpha Wolves because that's really all I can do at this point. So yeah, Liquid definitely looking good so far here in Game 2.
At the very least, he is going to have living armor to make him a not completely ineffectual jungler, but obviously this lane a pretty big win for Team Liquid so far, and they're gloating about it. Just kind of hanging out, looking at spawn camps that aren't coming in, so on and so forth. Here in mid, we can see Korok sitting at 13 CS. The Alchemist actually doing a really good job here. Moose sitting at 11 CS now in the face of the 13. Don't know that that's going to continue forever. There probably will come a point where he just has to play more passive. Sansheng should have played more passive as he's nightmared. And Tree gonna be our second kill with Soul Assumption sealing the deal. Make it 2-0 Team Liquid. Fresh off the game, the win in Game 1. Already off to another great start here in Game number 2.
This is just incredible. Like, I don't understand how TongFu goes from looking like an unstoppable just death machine, like a whirlwind of like knives and swords that you just walk into and turn into red mist, to this. Like, I don't know how the difference is that discernible between the difference in games, but I guess it just goes to show that any team can really beat any team at this point. This is the International after all, and these are the best 16 teams in the world. I'm just happy to see that Western teams are actually able to beat the Eastern teams now, especially Chinese teams, because that was kind of the whole, I don't want to say mantra, but it was the whole thing behind TI3. Just no one really thought that the Western teams were going to be able to do anything, but now they're actually showing that they can do things, which makes the scene just a lot more exciting.
Sansheng, well said by the way. Sansheng manages to escape the gank attempt. He is a little bit tanky-ish, even at level 2, being able to soak up some rocket barrage damage and survive it. That is a level 3 rocket barrage too, which is even more impressive. Now Mike though. Mike, yep, there's the sentry. Now they're gonna find him. And just waiting on help. Here comes Fluff and a couple auto attacks. They are really just taking their time. Now they can't see him. No, now they're finally managed to get him. But 3-1. And yeah, Liquid continuing to pile it on. Korok is now, opening up that lead we expected he would in mid, now up to 26-7 against the 15-0 of Mu in terms of CS. Mu nonetheless is closing in on level 6, only about half a level ahead for Korok, so all things considered, I think this is a pretty okay performance from him.
Yeah, well, it's also have to keep in mind tree armor as well.
Yeah.
The only problem is bottom lane needs a tree armor too, because it was King J and the Bounty Hunter versus the Bat Rider. But Boba actually got ganked. King J is winning bottom pretty heavily now, thanks to Banana coming down there and helping him secure a kill. And the bottom tier 1 is going to be traded to the top tier 1, so Liquid pulling out pretty much even in that regard. But Boba not having such a great start is a bit of a bummer, because he's one of their only initiators. Queen of Pain is not really an initiator just because of the fact that she doesn't want to put herself in harm's way to start the fight most of the time.
Right.
She wants to be able to blink to maybe secure a kill or blink defensively to make sure that she doesn't go down, because the longer she lives in a fight, she does a tremendous amount of damage. So we'll see how Bulba's able to recover here. He can definitely sit in the jungle if he wants to, but it's not that safe because King J's 7 now. He's got track. How's down here. Poor How's only level 3, man. Oh, man. He just hit 4 and it's 6 minutes in. He is not having a good time.
Yep, and this is kind of what we were talking about. You know, their lineup, thin as it is already, they cannot really afford to be underleveled. They need to be able to play aggressive and chest out. And we see King J now level 7 might begin to start roam around, free this bottom lane up for How and try to let him finally get some levels and some gold. But yeah, this is a very tense moment. It has to be. And you hate to say that 6.5 minutes in. Things have just gone so well for Liquid right now that they, you know, TongFu has to be feeling a bit like they did in game 1. Where it's just one little thing after one little thing, and all of a sudden, 10 minutes in, Liquid has this big lead, and they're just teleport. Oh, nice Sonic Wave. Caught one and killed him off. King J was there to get some reprisal. But nonetheless, the Sonic Wave actually caught them both. If there had been any follow-up, they might have been able to grab 2. But nonetheless, 1-for-1 trade. I'm pretty sure he got the track off there before he cleaned up the quap, so not a bad exchange.
Yeah, King J is going to be the saving grace here for TongFu. He's level 8 now, and it's only 7 minutes in. He's the same level, basically, as Korok was on that Queen of Pain after he managed to kill the Alchemist middle. So, a full level ahead of Mu, not too shabby. And IX Mike is just soaking some experience here in the middle lane, while Sansheng finally is able to actually see creeps for the first time. I think he's probably got some teary eyes right now. I don't think he ever thought himself he would get a chance to do this, but he's going to start getting a little bit of farm, which is definitely going to be nice. But it's still a kill lead for Liquid, and I still feel like they have a pretty, not sizable advantage, but it's a decent one. I would like to see them continue to pressure like we saw them do in game number 1. Just keep pushing the pace.
Yep.
You know that you have the lane advantage. You know that you can continue fighting. You have Dust and your Queen of Pain. You can probably kill How or basically anyone that you find at this point. Just make sure that you don't get too over-aggressive.
Bulba also making some good ground up. He's just about 1,000 gold away from his Blink Dagger now. And should have it up around 10 minutes, 10 to 11 if he just is left completely to his own devices and is able to continue just stacking and fireflying the entire jungle. King J going to spot out a cadre of bad boys. Sansheng's right there with him. They get the track off on Fluff and stuff. They've got help in the form of Banana on the other side. They kind of got him triangulated right now. But the team fight potential in TC and Korok in particular just way too high for them to really think they can accomplish anything engaging into that, even with King J doing as well as he is. So they will forego the opportunity. There's a whole lot of farming. 8.5 minutes in. Take a look at the gold. Liquid does lead by just about, I call it 1,200. The experience a much closer affair, but as mentioned, the lead not huge, but certainly moving in that direction.
The thing that worries me is TongFu is a team that if they get enough momentum, they can definitely make things happen here. And speaking of making things happen, TC really wants to go for something here.
And they're going to chase it down. Trying to chase it down. We're going to have an engagement here in mid. We're going to have Mu lassoed out, and he is going to end up dead. So Liquid unable to track down the 2 they wanted, which were Banana and Sansheng, but able to get an even better target in that Alchemist. The Alchemist struggling mightily, has yet to even put together his phase boots. Hand to Midas now done on the Nature's Prophet, though, so not the worst timing on that. Bassi Midas in 9 minutes. Could be worse, but obviously was having some struggles early on. So still delayed quite a bit. And Liquid content to go ahead and start pressuring this tier 1. And this is a time when they should feel pretty comfortable just trying to take team fights so long as all of their ultimates are off cooldown. The Blink Dagger still not done on Ball, but probably the one big missing piece. Here we go. They're going to go on TC. TC tracked out after he got caught. Now the damage is there. Soul Assumption to followed up. Sonic Wave secures the kill. That's 1-for-1. There's an immediate buy back in and teleport back in. There's going to be a Sprout on Fluff. They're going to try to engage out of it, one would imagine. And here, oh wow, he didn't. Now he did get it off on Korok. Looks like he was going to throw it across the river. Instead, tossed it into the river. So TongFu waiting patiently and taking a good opportunity to get a couple of very nice kills. And at least one was a track. I think there might have been 2 in there.
Yeah, I think it was 2 track kills, but it was a really nice concoction actually by the Alchemist. He probably could have gone for the Visage because concoction range is just ridiculously long, but he decided to change targets at the last second to go for Korok, which is obviously a much more high priority kill. So well done by TongFu. They did have to buy back on King J, which isn't ideal by any stretch of the imagination, but as long as he was there for the experience, I think it's fine. And he's actually about halfway to level 10 right now, so he's not suffering at all. He's still 2-1. And at this point in the game, TongFu definitely not out of it by any stretch. They're still slightly behind in the gold department, but the experience has started to go in their favor after that little exchange mid.
Level 10, almost level 11. Very important for the bounty hunter. He's almost level 10, I should say. Closing in on level 11 quite quickly. Level 11, level 2 track, that's when things can really start to turn around. With level 2 track, you can lose fights in some cases and still come out ahead so long as you've got a track killer too in your back pocket afterwards. And if you're even just breaking even with level 2 track up, you're probably taking a pretty sizable lead. So him being a smidge over-leveled as to what you would expect from an off-lane bounty hunter, quite encouraging. That Blink Dagger still on the way for Bulba, and really that's the missing piece here for me. If Liquid has that initiation, has the ability and mobility to take a fight on their own terms, TongFu's going to be hard-pressed. But Bulba, a very good bad rider. Once he does get it up, he'll be looking to make his impact. Hal still struggling. He's just level 8.5 now, and a very barren inventory, all things considered.
Yeah, how he gave away that kill. Actually, hold on. Might see King J going down here.
King J, Fiend's gripped. Here comes the help, though, and he's going to be finished off with a soul assumption. Here comes Bulba back in. Korok wants the fight. Hal going to be dusted out. Here comes the Alchemist, though. Acid Spray and the Unstable Concoction kills off Mike. There's a lasso, finally, from Bulba, dragging him back, and the cooldown will miss everyone. They broke and went in 2 different directions, about as well as they could have done that. Made Liquid split their attention. Now another Unstable Concoction being channeled. They're going to chase him down. Hal's there. Unstable Concoction gets Bulba. Hal taking a lot of damage. Sonic Wave connects. That caught a couple. Now they're going to sprout him in down low. Hal, despite not having a lot of items, getting the damage done, and TC will be the next one to drop. Sansheng, no, not going to die yet. Another Unstable Concoction on the fluff. Hal's there again. He's absolutely everywhere. Nightmare buys a little bit of time. They're going to end up trading 1 for 1. Alchemist for the Visage. Mike finally might be someone to survive. Korok, in the meantime, managed to track down the tree under his own tier 1. 10-9 at the end of that. And yeah, these fights beginning to get a little bit nutty. This game staying very close to even. Mike's still tracked out, and it looks like they want to go for this. There's another track. TP's going to be there. King J will be Nightmare. That's going to be Bulba there. No lasso. Has a flame break, though. See if he'll use it. He will just Firefly. Surprised he didn't flame break him back under the tower. Now he'll spend it, trying to catch up with him. Here comes Korok. The dust is up on Jay. There's a Shadow Strike to slow him down. And that immediately melts off the living armor. Jay will end up dead. The rest of TongFu scattered across multiple regions, but Liquid able to finally get a little payback, and Mike did survive that ordeal. 20 kills in a 13.5-minute game, just the kind of Dota you love to watch. A lot going on absolutely everywhere, and finally Bulba is going to be, I think, should have his Blink Dagger on his way. He doesn't have any gold. But here we go. Call down's there. They may try to fight off it again. Korok hit with a concoction. They got both of them. That was a very long charge. They're going to re-come in. There's the overgrowth. Korok's going to end up dropping. TC might be next on the list. Lasso off cooldown. He's going to grab Hal. TC doing what damage he can. Will he survive long enough? No. That's a 3-for-0 exchange, and they're not done. Bulba was being pursued. TongFu deciding to pull back, as if you rub all their HP together, you might maybe get 200 points. But another big turnaround, and TongFu actually takes the lead from Liquid with that counter initiation. This game is bonkers. Looking at the gold graph, quite violent changes, but still very close. Less than right around 1,500 gold now after the update. Moving in favor of TongFu, the experience a little bit higher. So TongFu, though, definitely getting the better of those last couple of exchanges.
I gotta say, Korok really overplayed that. Like, he blinked forward behind the tower when he didn't even know where the rest of TongFu.
Right.
Like, that was just way overconfident. Definitely a play that has cost his team dearly here. And you always have to be careful when you're exchanging kills like that. If you're playing against a bounty hunter, it's not always to your benefit to just go, we're gonna fight 24/7. Now, if you're winning every single fight, that's different. But typically, winning a fight consists of killing 1 more or 2 more heroes than the team with the bounty hunter, just to stay ahead of the gold curve. Now, he's only level 10, so he doesn't have level 2 track yet, but Team Liquid can't afford to do that anymore. Like, if they keep taking these slugfests like that, they're going to be in trouble.
They're going to react up to top. The track's up on Mike. TC was hurting. There's 2 here. That's Banana and Hal. They are going to go ahead and vacate, recognizing that was actually a really big reaction out of Liquid. That frees things up a bit for Moo. Moo is actually building the mechanism. He's only about 250 gold away from it, 300 gold away from it now. But I feel like TongFu is playing their lineup really well. And the fact that they're coming out ahead in some of these fights, given the superior damage dealing potential and the superior AoE teamfight potential that Liquid has amassed with their composition, it really is just coming down to decision making, and really is just coming down to them being able to capitalize more on their composition strengths. And it really is just a nice way to play.
Oh, top lane, how?
Up at top lane, we're going to have Hal lassoed out. And Bulba helping to secure yet another kill. And I'm actually going to really hope that Dota looks okay on the stream. Something, I don't know if my monitor is dying, but it looks like it's twilight now. Not daytime, not nighttime. It just looks really weird. Is that just me, or is... Anyway.
That's just you, man.
Oh boy, Korok. There with TC, chasing down Moo. And there's going to be an overgrowth to bail him out. Homing missile. Going to chase him all the way back to the tier 1. King J now there. There's going to be a track out. Might be another big fight. They've got Sansheng Nightmare. He's going to come out, throw out a Leech Seed. Probably going to end up dead. Unstable Concoction locks TC down. No, the Leech Seed kept him alive. Visage Familiar, Soul Assumption, not enough to bring him down. The damage being done on both sides. They may decide to pursue this out. King J looked like he had big eyes. Instead, opted not to. The fact that Alchemist had popped that DD rune and still did not chase them out is actually really surprising to me. But nonetheless, 12-12, we're all knotted up, both teams, just in a war over this middle lane.
Yeah, I mean, the war, unfortunately, is going to be lost by Liquid if they keep taking these exchanges and don't actually go for the tower hard enough to kill it. Because Living Armor now is maxed out. Sansheng has recovered from his not-so-great early game, so now he's level 8, which means that he's got the max Living Armor, he's got 2 points in the Leech Seed, and most importantly, he has his ult. Normally, Overgrowth is one of those abilities that's kind of looked over as not so good, but the thing is, it keeps the Queen of Pain from blinking out, and it also interrupts channeling from the heroes like Bane, and it stops the lasso from being dragged way out of the fight and getting somebody out of position. So I do think that TongFu are still in this. They're alive and kicking. They're pushing into the tier 1 in the top lane, but I don't think they're going to get it as IX Mike, his Bane, very menacing, stopping the push pretty much all on his own, but middle lane.
Boo going to be lassoed back right into the cooldowns, channeling the Unstable Concoction. Will be eating a lot of damage. He actually survived a lot longer there than I thought he would have been able to, so you can tell the Alchemist is playing catch-up fairly well. However, nonetheless, added to the list of casualties. We're beginning to see that split push you mentioned during the draft show itself, though, as Hal and the Nature's Prophet bring down the tier 1 top. Looked like Liquid wanted to take a run at this tier 1 mid instead, opting to go ahead and play back. King J being pursued by Korok. Does have Living Armor to help him out, and Korok with no detection, not going to try to pursue too hard. But things settling out just a minute. That's kind of how it feels. It just feels like these teams just fight forever, then they take a 2-minute breather, farm a little, then go back and fight forever some more.
The thing is, when you're playing against a tree, that 2-minute breather absolutely kills you. Because every single time you get another 20 seconds or 15 seconds, it's another Living Armor to a tower, it's another, so-and-so HP healed on that tower that you have to do again. And they have a hard enough time staying at the tower at any given point in the game, especially since there's level 2 Wrath of Nature now, and the Nature's Prophet, and there's Acid Spray, which makes it very hard to push too. So TongFu are defending their tier 1s very well. They've only lost their safe lane tier 1. Now granted, Liquid still has their tier 1 mid as well, but the damage that's done to that tower is more or less permanent. They're not going to have the ability to just bring it back to full HP, and Hal might get caught here as well, but IX Mike actually canceled this grip there.
Very odd. I noticed that too. Nonetheless, a bit of a missed opportunity. 12-13. TongFu playing this pretty smart. I do still feel like they need to be pressing with King J. He has now a level 11, so having level 2 track, quite a big deal. We're seeing the split push come into play. Banana with his Shadow Blade up, as well as his Midas. The Alchemist did complete that mech quite a while ago. Mech phase plus 1,000 gold. He's now getting points in Agreevil's Greed as well, so his farm potential should begin to pick up significantly as we cross 20 minutes. Taking a look at the gold graph and where we stand. Just about 3,500 gold separating the two squads, moving in the direction of the Chinese team. 2,000 experience going their direction as well.
I'm really worried actually for Liquid right now. I feel like they've accomplished a lot, but there's going to come a point in the game where they need to do more, and yep, catching Hal is going to be a good start.
Hal, very fortuitous kill. Bulba finds himself on a killing spree now. And Liquid's doing what they need to do. I just feel like they need to be getting more secondary objectives out of it. And the same can be said for TongFu. They've been fighting a lot, but having only taken down 2 towers on the side of Liquid, I guess, I mean, they didn't go a farming build on this Alchemist. So going to the late game against the Gyrocopter and against the Bat Rider, who is just naturally good in situations such as just being reliant completely on an Alchemist or any kind of melee hero as your sole late game, true late game hero. That's just something that's going to favor Liquid to begin with. So both teams with their own reasons to want to fight, and I think that's why we're seeing so damn much of it.
Yeah, I think the thing, though, is that TongFu, actually giving away free familiars here, so I think Ben is going to be pretty happy about that. Is he really going to give away both of them? Okay, never mind. I was going to be sad if he did that, because you don't want to sacrifice your babies, man. Those are your babies. So they need to try to push mid for sure. Getting the offlane tower, the tier 1, if you're Liquid, is kind of a secondary thing that would be nice, but if you don't get the mid tower, Roshan is going to be so difficult to defend, and because they have a tree and Nature's Prophet, at some point TongFu are just going to try to sneak it. Banana's actually just sitting in the pit right now casually thinking about if he wants to try to do Roshan. Sure, it would take a while, but he can just do that. And that's why I was putting so much emphasis on Liquid getting some map control, because if you don't do that against a dire team with these heroes, you will not be able to stop them from doing it. And they don't have any idea because their vision basically consists of inside of their own jungle right now because they lost their tier 1 in the safe lane so early, which is another thing that's been really common today, is teams going for the very quick safe lane tier 1 tower kill just to make your ward change places, basically. So very nicely executed by TongFu here. They should be able to get this pretty much undetected unless these familiars fly over the pit, which they just might.
Working on the Roshan. They've got personnel in the area if they want to do something about it. So far, it doesn't look like they do. Nope, this is going to be pretty... If they want to go, they got to go quick. TongFu in a great position. And nope, Liquid is going to go ahead and play it back. So Roshan will be given away to TongFu. Nice little boon to their lead, which is still hovering and well within manageable range. The experience is actually well manageable as well. But Liquid is, it's almost like that weird moment last game where it's just like, all right, guys, go do something. You know, like they've managed to find a couple of kills here and there, but they have a team that I think should feel very comfortable taking fights at this stage of the game. Instead, they're just kind of being split pushed to death by TongFu.
Well, that's one of the things about TongFu that made me not want to see them go late against Liquid. Of course, that's if you're a Liquid fan. If you're a TongFu fan, you want TongFu to go late because there's going to become a stage where the Weaver and the Prophet together are going to split push so hard that there's not really a direct answer that Liquid has. Their initiators consist of basically one. That's why I kind of wanted to see the puck, because it forces the fight in a much larger scale than just going in and lassoing one person, because the rest of TongFu can just run if they think that the fight's not worth taking. And 4v5, pushing into a tower, it's still difficult, especially if the tree is alive. So I think the Queen of Pain pick is still going to work out decently for them, especially considering Korok pretty much has his Hex right now, which is pretty darn fast, actually. 23-minute Hex is very, very good. So if they want to, they can force some fights now, but looks like middle, Moo going to be going for a stun.
Love it stuff. Eats the unstable concoction. They're going to try to pursue him out. Flame break off the mark. Just can't catch up with him. The big man moving a little bit too fast. And Liquid now finally eyeballing this mid-tier 1. If it wasn't this tower has 1,300 health at full health. They have probably chipped away 3,000 health off this thing over the course of the game. It's just, as you said, these little 2-minute breathers you take, they just kill you. They kill any amount of momentum you can get in terms of exponential gains, in terms of doing a little bit of damage, backing off, and then building on that damage later. You just can't do it. TC, though, is finding his farm quite effectively. He did go the Helm of the Dominator build with the drums, which is pretty standard for him. Yasha on his way to a Manta, one would only imagine. But Liquid might have a chance to catch someone out. There's a Dust on Hal, but King Jay's there, and they're going to reinitiate. There's going to be a Sonic Wave spit on Hal. The Rageous is going to be gone. However, Bane traded away. Cooldown's there. Trying to get out of it. Have to walk through the Firefly damage, and that's going to... Wow, the mech very well timed, actually. Now Banana's there. Bulba might be in trouble. King Jay still looking for safety, but Korok able to track him down. Banana going toe-to-toe with Fluff and stuff. He's got his familiars in position. Doesn't matter. Unstable concoction flies out of the peanut gallery. Korok not done, though. Continuing to clean things up. That's a double kill on both sides. One for Banana, one for Korok. However, the exchange going heavily in favor of TongFu. And this is where things get disastrous. Because not only did they lose the fight, they lost the fight by 2 heroes instead of just 1, and they did it against a bounty hunter who was alive long enough to get a track or 2 off. And TongFu, little exchanges like that is just going to be so difficult for Team Liquid to erase.
Yeah, this is really not the kind of trades that Liquid want to be doing, and Hao's going to use his time lapse out here to juke through the tower and bottom lane. And oh, he actually might just die anyway because there's a dust here.
Mike's right there, no Fiend's Grip. There's a Scythe of Ice though. And Hao cleaned up as Korok shows off his new toy.
Tower is under attack.
17-16, and the killing sprees continue to mount. 33 kills in a 26-minute game, and Dust aplenty as we're going to see Dust spin and Banana. Caught out by Bulba, the cooldown's going to be there as well. Banana flame broken right back into the cooldown. Great teamwork, and making sure he didn't get away, make it 18-16. Those are the kind of exchanges you want to take if you're Liquid. Just pick them apart.
Yeah, this is the kind of style you need to continue playing. And as long as there's a Hex on the Queen of Pain, the rushing BKB on the Weaver doesn't really mean anything. Because if the Queen of Pain is the first one inside of the fight, which right now he kind of has to be, you're probably not going to get your BKB off in time unless TongFu is knowing that the fight's going to be coming. Which, if you're doing it right, is not going to happen. So, the one thing that kind of bothered me about the last engagement is that not only did they abandon TC, but TC like airballed his cooldown like really bad, and then they just kind of left him in the walls. They're like, "Yep, you don't have any spells left. We're just gonna go ahead and let you die." And Korok's gonna go for a double kill or something like that. But now finally, Liquid gonna be pushing into the tier 1. We'll see if TongFu can defend.
No glyph, already used. Korok eats the unstable concoction. Here they come. Korok, there's the overgrowth. Just the stun wore off. Cooldown's right there. They're gonna catch everyone along with the sonic wave. And Liquid putting it together. Finally getting all those big nukes to line up. They're going to track down Shan Sheng. And they're going to make it a triple kill for the gyrocopter. And TongFu asked for that one. Walked out into a narrow space, all grouped up, trying to jump the Queen of Pain. And Liquid, with their hands on the trigger, pulled it to great effect. They're not going to get one, they're going to get 2 towers out of it as well.
That was really questionable by TongFu.
Yeah.
I mean, what did they think was gonna happen? They're like, oh, we rooted the Queen of Pit. Oh, and then everyone just died instantly. No one has a BKB except for the Weaver, and the Weaver just died instantly without even using it.
Yep.
So, I mean, questionable decision from TongFu. It's not the end of the world, but man, losing those 2 towers in that quick of succession, that really kind of lowers Tree's impact in a game. And now TC has his full Manta, an additional 1,300 gold, and the Bane now has a gem, which means that the map control from TongFu has just drastically been lowered.
Not just the map control, the gold lead has been cut to 9-0, almost back to 0, the lowest it's been in about the last 10 to 15 minutes. The experience has actually completely turned upside down, going from 3,500 to 3,500 in favor of TongFu to 3,000 in favor of Team Liquid. And that's the catalyst they had to have. That you know, again, they had a fight. They had a couple of fights like that too in game 1, and that just puts TongFu such on the defensive. And I really like your insight, by the way, that losing towers really does lower what a Treant Protector can give you. So long as you've got towers up, he's going to feel much more relevant in the game than Overgrowth and Living Armor, because there does come a point where Living Armor, as good as it is, only has so much value. But that's just a really good insight that I think is well worth mentioning, especially losing those 2 mid towers, which usually are going to be the towers contested the most often and the towers pushed the most often. So losing those, big boon for Liquid in more ways than one.
Yeah, especially since now the jungle is wide open for Liquid to go into. And this is the part in the game where Banana's going to have to pretty much go into full split push mode. He can afford a Hex of his own if he wants to make that choice, and that's going to help focus heroes down like the Queen of Pain, maybe TC, since TC isn't going for a BKB himself, and to stop that call down from just massacring your team with Korok's burst damage on top of that. So we'll see what his choice is actually going to be. I assume it is just going to be a Hex. And the nice thing is, with King J and a Hex, if they find somebody with the Bounty Hunter, they can just find a support solo and kill him just dead to rights. He won't really have a chance.
Both teams taking another one of those breathers. And for Liquid, a well-earned one. Yep, the gold lead now back way up under 0. And the experience, again, well in their favor. The net worth, bit of a shab dab. 13,000 for the gyrocopter, followed closely by the Nature's Prophet. Then, of course, the Queen of Pain. Korok having a huge impact on this game, has really been the #1 playmaker, and it shows up on the scoreboard as well, sitting at 9, 4, and 5. And they're fine. Yep, they're going to decide to get aggressive again, smoking up, along with an Invis Ring, just looking for a target. King J to the south of them. Moo, under cover of the Shadow Blade, able to elude detection as well. Down at bottom, Fluff happy to soak up A little bit of gold, a little bit of experience. And here we go. They might decide to fight this. They've got an eye on it. Bulba takes the flight. There's going to be the Fiend's Grip on Moo. Caldell's going to be there as well. Lasso onto the Alchemist. Down goes the Bane, though. Moo not going to survive. Sonic Wave caught a bunch again. Banana being cleaned up from Fluff and Stuff, who arrives. Actually, never mind. No detection. Trying to chase him down. Trying to guess where he went. They did force a buyback out of the Alchemist, though. And giving up just the Bane to do so is certainly going to be well worth their time.
Yeah, I think that was a worthy trade. Poor IX Mike, man. Every time he goes for a Fiend's Grip, he just gets shurikened instantly. Like, they don't have sentries down or anything because Korok has a gem. But the poor guy, every time he goes in to try to do anything involving a channeled spell, just immediately canceled. Although it did force the fight, which obviously went in favor of Liquid, so it was fine for an exchange. Like, no big deal. And they did manage to kill the Bounty Hunter. And, oh, he actually did manage to get his BKB before he died, so it's not as big of a deal as I thought it was. But now that the BKB is up on the Bounty Hunter, it means that he can actually stay inside of the fights as opposed to just getting kind of blown up by burst damage. And Moo is kind of in the same boat. He needs a BKB just because of the fact that even with the mech and his Chemical Rage on, not tanky enough. I mean, with level 4 Rocket Barrage, level 3 Call Down, and the burst damage coming out from Korok too, you need a BKB.
Liquid, once again, gathering here in mid. We're going to see the split push from Banana try to show itself. He has his Scythe of Ice done now as well. Roshan about to respawn, and Liquid well aware of it. Blinking through the pit, trying to take control of the pit area. TongFu slowly rotating their way over to that side. But so far, still a very back-and-forth match. As big a turnaround as Liquid has put together, it's still just dead even. Their experience lead, worth mentioning, but at 32 minutes in, beginning to matter less and less. And this is the game we've been waiting for all day, Draskell. This is the one that all of our 20-minute games make worthwhile, because I see this one going late.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to play it a little bit more safe. The Roshan, though, is going to have to be contested by TongFu. They can't give this away. Oh, no, how?
Hal blown up as Bulba went fishing and found him a bug. The Observer ward, yeah, that's what it is. It's a ward. Observer ward placed on the high ground. Paying for itself quite easily with the armor reduction. This Roshan not going to stand for long. TongFu is moving their way down, though. They're going to try to contest an unstable concoction on IX. Mike still has Fiend's Grip, didn't spend it. And Liquid opting to back out. I'm a little... never mind, there was a buyback. So Weaver buying back, and they opt to go ahead and back out. Roche is at about half health. Liquid gonna have to make up their mind to go for it or abandon it. They're hanging around like they want to fight. Bulba without a lasso. He'll have lasso in 5 seconds. They're gonna go ahead and go for it. Moving in, there are the familiars getting a view. There's the call down. They're gonna try to catch Banana. He's gonna be side device. Here's the Sonic Wave once again. There it is! Overgrowth goes off Moo, taking so much damage, but the damage being done to the supports is huge as well. Hal trying to get away. The Sonic Wave from Korok, the Scream of Pain, connects, and he will be cleaned up too. Fluff, using his dust, makes it a 4-for-1 exchange. And Liquid, for a moment, their supports were just being chewed alive. But the spam ability and the just pure AoE damage showing itself. These are the fights they want to take. These are the fights that they have been taking that have been the catalyst for their turnaround of this match. Just forcing TongFu to actually commit and to actually group up. Again, the gold is hovering right around 0, but now the experience going way in favor of the North Americans. It's going to be a tier 1 down, at least could very easily be a tier 1 and a tier 2 tower if they wanted to push the issue. Looks like they are going to go ahead and back, though.
That was with a double buyback, by the way. Like, obviously the Weaver bought back to start the Roshan in the first place, and then Banana bought back to teleport back into the fight to watch the rest of his team die. This is the problem that I mentioned during the draft, is TongFu doesn't have any damage. They don't have anybody who has any damage items except for the Alchemist, and he's got a Shadow Blade. The Weaver was forced to rush a BKB after having a horrible start because of the lane that he was in. The Bounty Hunter had to rush a BKB, otherwise he dies instantly. They have a Tree, a Prophet, who is pretty much the majority of the right-click damage right now, and an Alchemist who went mech because nobody else could get it. So, kind of the way that TongFu has itemized was necessary, but it also doesn't give them the capability of actually beating Liquid in these team fights, and King J getting caught out as well.
King J spotted out, Bulba teleported into the Visage Familiar. There's going to be a BKB. That made no sense. BKBing when a Bat Rider's right behind you and you know he's going to catch you, that's just a waste of a BKB because he was going to use that lasso anyway. But Liquid Now, perhaps, putting together a war march. Poking their nose down middle lane. King J, the only one that's missing, but they have opened up a very considerable lead. At least in terms of kills and map control. Melting the creep wave down, not a problem. TC's inventory, not totally full. That was almost very nice from him. Not his inventory, not totally full, but with the butterfly and a manta style. Just not a lot of heroes on the side of TongFu feel like a threat at all. They're going to take down the tier 3, and they are going to commit. Moving up now. Focus firing down the racks. And Unstable Concoction tossed out. That's going to catch IX Mike. He did manage to retreat to safety before. Now we're going to hear a lasso. Looks like they went fishing. Got Sanshing again. Sanshing brought down. They get the racks as well. And they're going to force a buyback. 2 tier 2 towers still remain at top and at bottom. So Liquid still with some work to do, but having brought down 1 melee racks, TongFu's life just got very, very difficult.
I think Liquid are going to be feeling pretty good about taking this game now after that exchange. Especially considering I don't think they can kill TC once, much less twice. In order to kill him, they have to use everything. Like Hex, Concoction, everything in the book, Swarm, and they just don't have the damage. Like all their damage right now is consistent of right clickers, like the Alchemist and Nature's Prophet, Weaver, and Bounty, right? Well, he has 28 armor and a butterfly, and he has lifesteal. So the tree doesn't add anything to the team at this point. He's basically a creep. He doesn't really do any damage. He has overgrowth, which is pretty nice, and he can force staff somebody out of a call down, or force somebody backwards who gets hexed, I guess. But that's more or less it. He doesn't add anything else. So he's outlived his usefulness. This is the point in the game where Liquid supports are just doing a lot more for them, even though poor IX Mike can't get a Fiend script to save his life. At least the Bounty Hunter's not focusing somebody else that's on the team that's more important, like Korok or maybe TC in this case. Or actually even Bulba would be a decent target just to stop it from blinking in. But regardless, this is pretty much Liquid's game to lose.
Could not agree more. The gold still hovering very close. The experience still getting quite large. 12-4, a command performance coming out of Korok on this Queen of Pain. Net worth, he's in the top 3. He, the Prophet, and TC, who has opened up a bit of a lead now over the Prophet. The Alchemist is actually staying, given the start he had, he is staying in okay-ish range. He's not completely naked of items, but the buybacks that have been spent by TongFu are just really showing themselves. There's going to be a Scythe of Ice on a King J. Lasso going to bring him back as well. And we see the Shiva shown off by Korok, tanking up, adding a bit more AoE to this already potent AoE combination. The Alchemist did complete his BKB, so at least that's one very important item they're finally going to have. But it may very well be too little too late. Liquid going to clear off 1 of 2. Last outer tier towers remaining.
I gotta say, man, like, I'm probably gonna get called biased for this, but America. Like, that's just what I want to say right now. Because Liquid and Dignitas back-to-back have put on some phenomenal performances, and I don't care who you are, you have to appreciate good Dota.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, like, TongFu is a fantastic team, so is LGD, but this is, like, unprecedented, honestly.
Yep. TC, just eating damage and dealing damage, gonna have his Aegis popped away. Weaver's already down. There will be no buy. Oh, never mind. I didn't think he had the gold, but he did. Now they're going to go ahead and reinitiate. Moo going to be drugged through. There's the call down, and all the damage coming from Korok. He will be scythed in return. TongFu clumping up like hell. BKB's up on both sides. They're trying to fight for their game. Sonic Wave going to be thrown out. Banana going to be cleaned up from behind by TC, who is just laying into TongFu. Waylaying this lineup. Force staff from Sanshing actually does save his buddy. But, again, gold spent. They've lost the next tier 3. They're going to... Yep, there it is! Second time today! A North American squad takes on a heavily favored Chinese team. And not just beats them once, beats them twice. I'll leave it to you, Draskell. I'll let you say it. Say it for all of us.
America.
There you go.
I'm feeling it, man.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it.
I gotta try.
Say, you want to do it too?
Yeah, I want to do it. If you're gonna I'm gonna get like sucked into you being called biased. So if that's gonna happen, I'm at least gonna get off a good one. America. There you go. Nice and red now. Go ahead.
I like it. Anyway, as far as this game goes, TongFu, they had a really good strategy. There were points in the game where I felt like Liquid felt a little bit weak. They weren't really on the same page with what they were trying to accomplish, at least in terms of their game plan. They let the mid-tier 1 stay up for way too long. Like, they could have probably killed that, I don't know, 10 minutes sooner than they actually did. And it allowed TongFu to get a lot, whereas the laning phase went so bad for them that I feel like Liquid probably could have snowballed maybe a little bit harder during the early game. But I do feel as though, in general, the way that TongFu had to itemize, this is a big thing. I mean, look at their items. 4 BKBs. Nobody on that team does any damage at all, except for maybe the Nature's Prophet. And I mean, he needed like a Daedalus and, I don't know, a Desolator or something just to compensate for the lack of damage that the rest of his team did. Because when you have 2 buybacks and you can't win a Roshan fight and you kill 1 person, you have some DPS problems. Either that or you're not really attacking the same person. So, I mean, TongFu, not only did they get their first loss today, but they get their first 2 today by Team Liquid. So very impressive stuff coming out of them. Of course, Orange did beat Liquid in the best of 2 prior to this.
Yep.
But, I mean, I was just excited to see that the games are actually close. Because last year we casted the preliminaries, and LGD China went something like 16-0.
Uh-huh. Until LGD was knocked down to the lower bracket, like in the winner's bracket semifinals or whatever, they did not lose a single match across the entire tournament, beginning with the preliminaries.
Yeah, I mean, it was just absolutely insane. So it's not so much that I think that the American team should win, that I think it's nice that they're actually close to the Chinese teams. So it's kind of like that moment where you're like, Jesus, we're actually not as bad as I think we are. So I'm happy about it.